Alright, so today's video is going to be on drum set maintenance. Now I've had this Pearl Export for about 5.5 years or so, give or take. And all I've done is just change the heads, and if it got a little dusty, I'd wipe it off. Now what I'm going to be doing is going through tightening the lug screws, and I would be lubricating the tension rods. So here's the next steps of the stuff that you're going to need. First things first, white lithium grease. It does not have to be white lithium grease. They make red and black lithium grease, but they sell this at Walmart, Lucas Oil Products Incorporated or whatever. It was like $6 for this tube. So you're not going to need a lot, but a little bit goes a long way, so you're going to need that. Next, you're going to need a drum key, obviously. And then next, depending on what your drum set has, you're going to need either a Phillips screwdriver or slotted. Some older drum sets have slotted. Then next, depending on your drum set, I know that some sonar kits have Torx bits or Torx tips for the screws. So you're going to need that. And that's just the basic things that you're going to need. And the next thing you're going to need is a rag, because dust accumulates all inside the rims, and drumstick shavings, that also accumulates inside there too. So a rag for wiping it down and cleaning it up. Next, these are going to be the tools that if you have them, use them. You're going to need a drill with a drum key drill bit, so that way you can take off the heads a lot quicker. And depending on if your drum set has nut-driven screws, a 1/4-inch socket. That's what I'm going to be using because it makes it a lot easier for tightening. So yeah, those are all the basic tools that you are going to need, so let's get into it. Now the first thing I'm going to do is take off all the heads with my impact drill here. This makes taking off the heads a lot quicker and a lot easier. Now that you have that off, there might be some dust around the bearing edges of the shell. All in all, this kit's pretty clean, so I don't really need to clean it, but that's where the rag will come in handy if you need to clean it. So now that I got the head off, I'm just going to go through with my socket, which in my case is a 9/32 socket. You can use a screwdriver because these are combo screws. I can use a Phillips head screwdriver and tighten it up too, but for the sake of ease and comfort, I'm going to use a 1/4-inch socket. Alright, so I just tightened up all the screws. Now, if you are using a 1/4-inch socket at home, I would say get it to where it's snug and then go like 2 quarter turns past that. Just so that way you don't risk, breaking the lug, because that can happen if you have, a drum set with lugs that are made out of softer metals. Trust me, I've broken one before, and it is just such an annoying thing to do. So be careful when tightening them up with a socket. And if you are using a screwdriver, make sure that it's a screwdriver with a good head that is not too worn down, because that could also strip out the screw, so just be careful when using a screwdriver. And I did tighten up the tom mount screw, which is a drum key compatible screw there. So I only had to give it a couple of turns because it was already pretty snug. Now, depending on what your drum set is, they might have a different size nut head. So I'd recommend bringing down a couple of different size sockets because not all of them are the same. And if your kit is just a Phillips only kit or slotted, then just give it a quick tighten up, because nothing would be worse than when you're drumming and your tom just falls on the floor out of nowhere. So yeah. Alright, so now I'm going to move on to lubricating the tension rods. Just got my white lithium grease here and a little scrap of cardboard, because all you're going to do is just dip the tension rods in. Just a little bit is all you need. Just so that way when you're tuning, everything turns smoothly and there's not friction, because a lot of tuning is by feel. So make sure you lubricate your lugs and tension rods. Alright, so if you're wondering how much to put on your tension rods, literally all I got is this little amount right here, and all you gotta do is just give it a little dip, like just about that much. That's all you really need. You don't need a ton, just enough to keep it lubricated and keep it from friction building up. Now be careful as you're putting these in, it can get on your rim, so make sure you clean that off. And if there's any excess that comes out, make sure you clean that as well. So yeah, I'm going to finish up the rest of this side, and yeah. Alright, so the batter side now is all taken care of. I will deal with the resonant side, but it's basically just the same. Rinse and repeat, lubricate the tension rods, and put the drum head back on. Alright, so I got the bass drum here. Now, all the lug screws are going to be the same as the tom lug screws. Now, when it comes to the bass drum spur mounts or tom mount, if your bass drum has it, it's probably going to be one size bigger. That's what I noticed when I was doing maintenance on my 1980s Pearl Export, is that the floor tom leg mounts and the bass drum spurs were all just one size bigger of screw. So that's why I said bring down a couple of different sockets. I didn't think that this video would turn into a repair video, because The bass drum spur on the right side has all 3 screws. Now the bass drum spur on the left side only has 2 out of the 3 screws, so I just gotta find something that matches the screw profile. Alright, so I just tried this one random screw that I had lying around just because it looked close, and on the first try, I get the right fitting screw. Isn't that something? Alright, got that screw problem taken care of. Now I'm just gonna go through and tighten up all the screws. And funny little thing about this is that on my other kit, the bigger screws were 5/16 and the smaller screws were 9/32. And the funniest thing is that these screws on this kit that's like 30 years newer are the same size screws. So I just kind of find that, ironic that a kit that was made 30 years ago has the same size screw as a kit that was made not too long ago. So, funny little tidbit. Alright, so I got all the screws taken care of. They all in all weren't that bad. So now I'm just going to lubricate the tension rods and put the reso head back on. Just like before, a little bit goes a long way. So I'm just going to put on one. Alright, so that's it. Drum set maintenance is really simple. Now your final question is, how often do you do drum set maintenance? Now, it depends. If you play and practice every day, then you're probably going to want to do it at least once a year. Tighten up all the screws, lubricate all the tension rods. But if you're somebody like me who plays maybe 2 to 3 times a week, then you're probably going to want to do it maybe every other year. And when it comes to lubrication, do it if it needs it. No need to over lubricate the tension rods. So yeah, all in all, really simple concept, and it's one of those things where it does take a decent amount of time. So if you have multiple drum sets like I do, you don't need to do it all in one day. You could do it over the span of a weekend, or if you got any free time, tear into 1 or 2 drums and, give them maintenance. So yeah, with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.